the SOS that summoned the galaxy's most feared war fleet captain. Laura Bailey looked out the viewing window of the research vessel Horizon. Stars stretched out before her, cold and distant in the blackness of space. The ship hummed quietly around her. Everything seemed normal, peaceful. That would soon change. "Captain, I'm picking up a strange reading," said Alan Murphy from his science station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "It's not matching anything in our database." Laura walked over to his station. The sensor display showed a large mass moving toward them. Too fast for an asteroid, too big for a normal ship. "Could it be a new species?" she asked. Alan shook his head. "I don't think so. The energy signature is odd, like it's trying to hide but not doing a good job." The ship's communications officer, Maria Patel, turned in her chair. "Captain, we're receiving a message, audio only." "Put it through," Laura ordered. A harsh, grinding voice filled the bridge. The universal translator struggled with the language, making the words choppy and broken. "Attention, a small vessel. You have entered Vorlax territory. Prepare for inspection. Resistance and will result in immediate destruction." The bridge crew looked at Laura. 12 faces filled with worry. "Vorlax?" Laura asked. "I thought they stayed in the Outer Rim systems." "They did," said Paul Jones, the ship's historian. His face had gone pale. "The Vorlax are hunters. They capture ships and use the crew as slaves." Laura's mind raced. The Horizon was a research vessel. They had basic shields and one small laser for clearing space debris. Nothing that would help against a warship. "Maria, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them our situation and location." Maria's fingers flew over her console. Seconds later, her face fell. "They're jamming our communications, Captain. I can't get a signal out." The ship suddenly shook violently. Red warning lights flashed across every screen. "They've locked on with a tractor beam," called out Jack Miller from the pilot's seat. "We're being pulled toward their ship." Laura gripped the back of her chair. "Engines to full, try to break free." The Horizon's engines screamed in protest. The small ship shuddered, but the pull of the tractor beam was too strong. "It's no use," Jack said. "Their technology is too powerful." The view screen showed the alien ship now. It was massive, at least 20 times larger than the Horizon. Its hull was dark gray with strange red markings. It looked like a predator, built to hunt. "They're going to board us," Laura said quietly. "Everyone arm yourselves with whatever you can find. We won't go without a fight." The crew scrambled to find makeshift weapons. The Horizon wasn't equipped for combat. Science tools, kitchen utensils, maintenance equipment, anything that could be used to defend themselves. Laura headed to her quarters. She pulled out an old metal box from under her bed, one she had never expected to open. Inside was a small device no bigger than her palm. It was black with a single red button, protected by a clear cover. Her grandfather had given it to her, before his death. "This is only for the worst situation," he had told her, "when there is no other hope." He had been a war hero, one of the few survivors of the Galactic War that had ended 50 years ago. Laura returned to the bridge. Through the view screen, she could see the alien ship extending a docking tube toward the Horizon. "Captain, what is that?" asked Alan, pointing to the device in her hand. "Our last chance," Laura replied. She flipped open the cover over the red button. "My grandfather called it a ghost beacon. It sends a signal on frequencies that haven't been used since the war." Maria looked confused. "But who would hear it? All military ships from that era were decommissioned decades ago." Laura's eyes locked on the approaching alien vessel. That's what everyone was told. With a deep breath, she pressed the button. The device hummed to life, its center glowing blue. "How does it work?" Jack asked. "It sends a signal that can't be jammed," Laura explained. "A distress call that contains our exact coordinates." "But who would respond?" Alan pressed. "The fleet is scattered across the colonies. The nearest patrol ship is at least 3 days away." Laura placed the beacon carefully on the command console. My grandfather told me stories about the war, about ships that didn't appear in any official records, about fleets that were never officially decommissioned. The crew exchanged worried glances. You mean the Ghost Fleet? Paul asked quietly. That's just a myth. Stories to scare children. Laura shook her head. My grandfather never lied to me. A loud clang echoed through the ship as the alien docking tube connected to their airlock. Breach in progress, the ship's computer announced. Outer airlock seal compromised. Laura straightened her uniform. Everyone to defensive positions. Buy us as much time as you can. As the crew moved to their assigned areas, Maria called out, Captain, the beacon. It's receiving a response. Laura rushed to her side. On the screen was a simple message. Signal received. Hold position. Assistance inbound. Time to arrival. 8 hours. 8 hours? Jack exclaimed. We'll be long gone by then. Then we make sure at least one of us is still here when they arrive, Laura said firmly. We need to leave a record of who took us and where they're going. The ship shook again as the inner airlock began to give way. They're coming through. Alan called out. Laura drew a deep breath. Remember your training. We are Earth citizens. We represent humanity. Show them what that means. The inner airlock door exploded inward with a deafening bang. Through the smoke and debris, tall figures moved forward. They were nearly 7 feet tall with gray-green skin and 4 arms. Their faces were covered by breathing masks, but their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. The leader stepped forward, scanning the humans with a handheld device. Primitive species, it said, the translator making its voice sound metallic and cold. Suitable for labor. Processing will begin immediately. Laura stepped forward, her chin raised. We are not your slaves. Help is coming. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. No help will find you, human. Your kind are known for many things, but military power is not one of them. As the aliens began to round up the crew, Laura looked back at the beacon on the console, still pulsing with blue light. Somewhere out there, ships were moving. Ships that hadn't been seen in half a century. Ships that had once made the galaxy tremble. The Ghost Fleet was coming. The SOS that summoned the galaxy's most feared war fleet far away, in a dense nebula known as the Widow's Veil, a signal reached an empty-looking region of space. The nebula was full of dust and radiation. Most ships avoided it. Sensors could not penetrate its depths. It was the perfect hiding place. Inside the nebula was a space station that did not officially exist. It was called Station Phantom. The station was home to 200 men and women who had chosen to remain in service long after their official duties had ended. On the command deck of Station Phantom, an alarm sounded for the first time in 20 years. The sound made everyone freeze. Admiral Diane Rogers was in her quarters when the alarm began. She was 72 years old now, her hair white and her face lined with age. But her eyes were still sharp, and her mind was still quick. She rushed to the command deck, moving with the energy of someone half her age. Report, she ordered as she entered. Sam Wells, her communications officer, looked up from his station with wide eyes. Admiral, we've received a ghost beacon signal. Authentication checks out. It's one of ours. Diane felt her heart beat faster. The ghost beacons had been given only to the families of fleet officers. They were to be used only in the most desperate situations. Source? She asked. Research vessel Horizon, registered to Earth's Titan colony, Sam replied. Signal indicates they've been boarded by hostiles identified as Vorlax. Diane's expression darkened. The Vorlax were known to the fleet. During the war, they had been minor players, scavengers who followed the major battles to collect technology and captives. After the war, they had grown bolder. Location? Sector 7G, near the Edge Worlds, Sam said. Travel time at maximum speed would be 8 hours. Diane straightened her back. For decades they had waited, training, upgrading their ships with technologies acquired in secret, watching as humanity spread peacefully among the stars, forgetting the terrible war that had nearly destroyed them. The Admiral touched a button on her wrist communicator. All captains to the command deck immediately. This is not a drill. Within minutes, 20 men and women had assembled. Some were old veterans like Diane. Others were younger, children of the original crew who had chosen to carry on their parents' mission. "The call has come," Diane said simply. The room went quiet. They all knew what those words meant. Captain Greg Foster was the first to speak. "Which ship sent it?" "The Horizon. Research vessel, minimal weapons. 12 crew members," Sam answered. "Vorlax are the hostiles," Diane added. "We all know what that means for the crew if we don't reach them in time." Greg nodded grimly. The Vorlax were known for their cruelty. Captives were often worked to death in their mines. "I say we dust off the old girl and show these Vorlax why humans were feared," said Captain Lisa Ward of the destroyer Silent Thunder. A murmur of agreement passed through the group. "Initiate Protocol Lazarus," Diane ordered. "All ships to be ready for jump in 30 minutes. The captains rushed from the room, heading to their ships. Diane turned to the main viewing window. With a command, the window's filter deactivated, revealing what lay hidden in the nebula. Ships. Dozens of them. Dreadnoughts, destroyers, carriers, and cruisers. The Ghost Fleet. Each ship was massive, their hulls scarred from battles long past. They had been hidden here since the end of the war, officially listed as destroyed. At the center of the fleet was the flagship Vengeance, the most feared warship ever built by human hands. During the war, the mere mention of its name had been enough to make enemy fleets retreat. Diane walked to her private elevator, which took her directly to the Vengeance's command bridge. The ship powered up around her, systems that had been in standby mode for years coming fully online. "Admiral on deck," announced Commander Olivia Reed as Diane entered the bridge. The crew stood at attention. Most were young, having never seen actual combat, but they had trained their entire lives for this moment. "As you were," Diane said. "Status report. All systems online and functioning at optimal levels," replied First Officer Carl Wilson. "Weapons charged, shields at full capacity, just like the simulations, ma'am." Diane nodded and took her seat in the command chair. "Plot a course to the Horizon's location, and send a message to the emergency beacon. Let them know we're coming. Chiu." The main view screen, Diane could see the other ships of the fleet powering up. Energy signatures flared as massive engines came to life. Weapon systems charged, creating a web of deadly potential. "Message sent," confirmed Communications Officer Linda Chen. 8-hour arrival time confirmed. Diane frowned. "Not good enough. The Vorlax will be long gone by then." She turned to her chief engineer. "Frank, can you push the engines beyond safety protocols?" Chief Engineer Frank Davis grinned. "I've been upgrading these engines for 20 years, Admiral. They'll hold, together. I can get us there in 5 hours, maybe less." "Do it," Diane ordered. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, preparing the ship for faster-than-light travel at speeds that would have been considered impossible during the war. "Admiral," said Tactical Officer Kelly Brown, "should we alert Earth Command about this? Technically, we're violating the peace treaties by activating military vessels." Diane shook her head. "The treaties also guaranteed the safety of all human vessels. The Vorlax fired the first shot by attacking a research ship. We're simply responding to a distress call, as is our right under galactic law." Kelly nodded, satisfied with the answer. "All ships report ready for jump, Admiral," Carl announced. Diane looked at the faces around her. Some showed nervous excitement, others calm determination. None showed fear. "The Ghost Fleet has remained hidden for 50 years, Diane said. "We've watched and waited, hoping this day would never come. But someone has taken what belongs to humanity. They've attacked our people, thinking us weak. Today, they learn how wrong they are." She pressed a button on her chair arm. Her voice would now be heard throughout all ships in the fleet. "All vessels, this is Admiral Rogers. Initiate jump on my mark. Weapons hot. Prepare for combat operations." She paused, feeling the weight of the moment. "Remember your training. Remember our purpose. We are the shield that protects humanity when all other defenses fail. We are the Ghost Fleet." Diane took a deep breath. "Jump." The space within the nebula flashed with light as the fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, heading toward a small research vessel, and the aliens who were about to learn why humans had once been the most feared species in the galaxy. The SOS that summoned the galaxy's most feared war fleet on board the Vorlax ship, Laura and her crew were locked in a holding cell. The cell was small, with metal walls and a force field door that glowed blue. The air smelled strange, too sweet, and thick. "What do you think they'll do with us?" asked Maria, her voice shaking. "Nothing good," said Alan. "The Vorlax are known for using captives as slave labor in their mining operations." Laura sat against the wall, her eyes fixed on the small device still clutched in her hand. The beacon was still active, still sending its signal across space. The aliens had not recognized it as a communication device and had let her keep it, thinking it was some kind of personal item. "Do you really think someone will come for us?" Jack asked, his voice low. Before Laura could answer, the force field door deactivated. 2 Vorlax guards entered, their forearms holding shock prods. Behind them came a larger alien wearing ornate armor. "I am Sub-Commander Kaithzak," the alien said through a translator device. "You are now property of the Vorlax. Hierarchy." Laura stood up, facing the alien. "We are citizens of Earth. We have rights under the Galactic Treaty." Kazak made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Treaties are for those with power to enforce them. Your Earth sends out ships with no weapons, no proper defenses. You practically invite capture." "Our ships are for research and exploration," Laura replied. "We come in peace." "Peace," Kazak said, as if tasting the word. "Peace is the luxury of the strong. The weak talk of peace because they have no other choice." The alien moved closer to Laura, studying her face. "Your species is a puzzle to us. During the Galactic War, humans were feared. Your fleets destroyed. Entire armadas. Your weapons could crack planets. Then suddenly you signed treaties, disbanded your military, and became explorers and traders. Why would the strong choose to become weak?" Laura met the alien's yellow eyes without flinching. "We chose a different path. Strength isn't only about weapons and war." Kazak snorted. "Strange philosophy. It has made you easy prey." The alien turned to leave, then paused. "We will reach our processing station in 6 hours. There, you will be assigned to work details. Those who cooperate may survive for many years. Those who resist—" The alien left the threat unfinished. As the guards followed Kazak out, the force field reactivated. 6 hours, said Paul, the historian. "Your ghost fleet has to beat that deadline." Laura looked down at the beacon. Its blue light seemed fainter now. "They'll come," she said, though doubt had begun to creep into her voice. Hours passed. The Vorlax ship continued its journey, moving deeper into their territory. The humans took turns sleeping, always keeping someone awake to watch. Laura was dozing when a violent shake threw her against the wall. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "What was that?" Maria asked, scrambling to her feet. Before anyone could answer, another shake hit the ship, stronger than the first. The lights flickered and went out, replaced seconds later by dim red, emergency lighting. Jack moved to the force field door, trying to see out. "Something's happening, the guards are running." Laura felt her heart beat faster. The ghost beacon in her hand was pulsing more rapidly now. Over the ship's communication system, they could hear the Vorlax crew shouting orders, their translated words coming through in broken fragments. Multiple ships, impossible numbers, battle formations, weapons locked. A Vorlax officer ran past their cell, then stopped and backtracked. He deactivated the force field. "You," he pointed at Laura. "Come with me, now." 2 guards grabbed Laura's arms, pulling her away from her crew. "Captain," Alan called after her. "Stay together," Laura shouted back as she was dragged away. The guards took her to the bridge of the ship. Through the main viewing window, Laura saw something that made her breath catch. Space around them was filled with ships, human ships, dozens of them, arranged in a perfect blockade formation. She recognized their designs from history books, warships from the Galactic War, each one massive and bristling with weapons. At the center of the formation was a ship larger than all the others, Its hull was midnight black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Red markings ran along its side, the letters still visible despite the distance. Vengeance. Kathazak stood at the command console, his posture rigid with tension. "Explain this," he demanded, pulling Laura forward. "I told you help was coming," Laura said, unable to keep a small smile from her face. The Vorlax communications officer spoke up. "They're hailing us, Commander, on all frequencies, in all known languages." "Put it through," Kathazak ordered. A voice filled the bridge, strong and commanding. "This is Admiral Diane Rogers of the Human Ghost Fleet. You have taken what is ours. You have one opportunity to surrender and release all human personnel. There will not be a second chance." Kathazak looked at Laura with new eyes, confusion, and fear mixing in his gaze. "The Ghost Fleet is a myth," he said. "A story told to frighten children." "The myth just showed up on your doorstep," Laura replied. The Vorlax commander turned to his weapons officer. "Target the lead ship. Show them we are not intimidated by old vessels and empty threats." "Sir," the weapons officer protested. "Sensors. Show their weapons are already charged. Their shields are unlike anything in our database. We cannot—" "Do it," Kathazak shouted. Laura watched as the Vorlax ship fired its main weapons at the Vengeance. The energy beam struck the larger ship's shields, creating a brief flash of light, but no apparent damage. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, with a precision that seemed almost casual, the human ships responded. Beams of light, too fast to follow, struck the Vorlax ship at key points. The vessel shuddered. Systems began to shut down across the bridge. "What have they done?" Kathazak demanded. "Targeted strikes," the engineering officer reported, sounding amazed. "They've disabled our engines, weapons, and shields without breaching the hull. The precision is impossible." The communication system crackled again with Admiral Rogers's voice. That was a demonstration. The next strike will not be so gentle. "You have 2 minutes to lower your remaining defenses and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." Kathazak stared out at the human fleet, his earlier confidence gone. He looked at Laura. "Who are you people?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Laura straightened her shoulders, feeling a surge of pride. "We're humans. We chose peace not because we're weak, but because we're strong enough to know there are better ways to live. But make no mistake, we remember how to fight." The Vorlax commander seemed to age before her eyes, his posture slumping. "Lower defenses," he ordered quietly. "Prepare for boarding." As the Vorlax crew scrambled to comply, Laura looked out at the human fleet. The ships moved with perfect coordination, closing in around the alien vessel. The ghost beacon in her hand gave one final pulse, then went dark. Its job was done. Help had arrived. The SOS that summoned the galaxy's most feared warfleet. 3 sleek shuttles launched from the Vengeance, heading toward the disabled Vorlax ship. Inside the lead shuttle, Marines in black armor checked their weapons. These were not regular soldiers, but special forces trained for boarding actions. Captain Greg Foster stood at the front of the shuttle. He was 45 years old with a scar running down his left cheek. He had never fought in a real battle before, only simulations. But his father had fought in the war, and Greg had grown up on those stories. "Remember," he told his team, "our priority is the human crew. We secure them first, then take control of the ship." The Marines nodded. Their faces were calm but focused. The shuttle docked with the Vorlax ship. The airlock cycled, and the Marines moved in with practiced precision. They met no resistance as they made their way through the alien corridors. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Rogers watched the operation through the Marines' helmet cameras. The feeds were displayed on the main view screen, showing the boarding team's progress. "Team 1 has reached the holding cells," reported Communications Officer Linda Chen. "They found 11 crew members, all alive." "Where's the 12th?" Rogers asked. "Captain Bailey is on the bridge with the Vorlax commander," Linda replied. "Team 2 is moving to secure her now." Rogers nodded, satisfied. The operation was going smoothly. Too smoothly, perhaps. "Any sign of resistance?" she asked. "None, Admiral," replied Tactical Officer Kelly. The Vorlax seem to have completely surrendered. Rogers frowned. In her experience, the Vorlax were not known for surrendering easily. They were calculating and opportunistic. This felt wrong. Full scan of their ship, she ordered. I want to know if they're hiding anything. The science team went to work, using the Vengeance's advanced sensors to examine every inch of the alien vessel. Admiral, called Science Officer Ryan Davis after a few minutes. I'm detecting unusual energy readings in their cargo hold. It appears to be some kind of stasis field. Show me, Rogers ordered. The screen changed to show a thermal image of the Vorlax ship's cargo area. Inside were dozens of cold blue shapes, humanoid figures in suspended animation. They have other captives, Rogers said grimly. Team 3. Redirect to the cargo hold. We have civilians in stasis. On the Vorlax bridge, Team 2 had arrived, to find Laura standing with the alien commander. The Marines quickly secured the area, their weapons ready but not firing. Captain Bailey? The team leader asked. Laura nodded. That's me. Captain Greg Foster, Ghost Fleet Marines. We're here to take you home. Laura smiled with relief. My crew? Safe. Being escorted to our shuttle now. Laura turned to Kathazak, who stood rigidly under the Marine's watchful eyes. I told you help would come, she said. The Vorlax commander did not respond. His eyes were fixed on the human warships visible through the view window. Those ships, he finally said. They match no known configurations in our database. Where did they come from? From the shadows, Greg answered. Where they've waited for 50 years. A Marine approached Greg. Sir, Admiral Rogers requests to speak with the alien commander. Greg nodded and activated his wrist communicator. A small hologram of Admiral Rogers appeared above it. I am Admiral Diane Rogers of the human Ghost Fleet, she said, her voice firm. Am I addressing the commander of this vessel? Kathzak stepped forward. I am Sub-Commander Kathzak of the Vorlax hierarchy. You have violated multiple sections of the Galactic Treaty by attacking an unarmed research vessel. You have further violated the treaty by attempting to enslave its crew. We did not recognize the vessel as being under treaty protection, Kathazak said, trying to sound confident. This region is considered unclaimed space. Unclaimed does not mean lawless, Rogers replied. But that is not my immediate concern. Our scans show you have other captives on board. Explain. Kathazak's skin paled slightly. Those are legitimate acquisitions from non-treaty worlds. All sentient beings have rights under the Galactic Charter, treaty world or not, Rogers said, coldly. Team 3 is freeing them as we speak. Be advised that your actions have triggered a military response from humanity. Your ship is now impounded and your crew will be detained pending investigation. Kathazak's four hands clenched in anger. The Vorlax hierarchy will not stand for this. We have allies. Do you think your allies will risk war with us? Rogers interrupted. Look outside, Commander. What you see is less than 10% of the Ghost Fleet. The rest remains in reserve. This was not entirely true. Rogers had brought almost every operational ship they had. But the Vorlax didn't need to know that. Kathzak fell silent, finally understanding his situation. Captain Foster, Rogers continued, complete the extraction of all captives and prepare the Vorlax ship for towing. We're taking it back with us as evidence. Yes, Admiral, Greg replied. In the cargo hold, Team 3 had discovered 87 beings in stasis pods. They were from 12 different species, all from developing worlds on the edge of explored space. The Marines carefully deactivated the stasis fields and began helping the confused and frightened aliens. Young Marine named Peter King was checking the last row of pods when he noticed one different from the others. It was larger and more heavily secured. Lieutenant, you should see this, he called to his team leader. The lieutenant came over and examined the pod. Get the science team down here. I want to know what's in this before we open it. 20 minutes later, a science officer from the Vengeance had scanned the mystery pod. It's an Arcavian, she reported with surprise. They rarely leave their home system. The Arcavians were an ancient and highly advanced species. They were peaceful but extremely private, choosing to avoid interaction with most other races. Why would the Vorlax capture an Arcavian? The lieutenant wondered. Likely for their technological knowledge, the science officer replied. Arcavian tech is centuries ahead of most species. They carefully opened the pod. Inside was a tall, slender being with pale blue skin and 4 eyes. The Arcavian blinked slowly, adjusting to consciousness. You are not Vorlax, it said in perfect English. No, sir, replied the lieutenant. We're humans. We've freed this vessel from Vorlax control. The Arcavian studied the humans for a moment. Humans, we have observed your kind from afar. You were warriors once. Then you chose peace. We still prefer peace, the lieutenant said, but we protect our own. A wise balance, the Arcavian nodded. I am Sentinel Tyrell. I was on a diplomatic mission when my ship was attacked. The Vorlax have been growing more aggressive in recent cycles, testing the boundaries of civilized space. On the bridge, Laura was preparing to leave with Greg when her communicator beeped. It was Admiral Rogers. Captain Bailey, we've discovered something interesting in the cargo hold. An Arcavian diplomat. This changes things. I need you to remain on the Vorlax ship. For now, Captain Foster will explain. Greg waited until the communication ended, then turned to Laura. The Arcavians are a major power, even if they keep to themselves. The Vorlax attacking one of their diplomats could trigger an interstellar incident. What does that mean for us? Laura asked. It means your research mission just got more complicated, Greg replied. You're now part of a first contact situation with the Arcavians. Admiral Rogers wants you to serve as the civilian scientific liaison. Laura looked out at the ghost fleet ships surrounding them. What had started as a simple research mission had now become something much bigger. In the cargo hold, Sentinel Tyrell was speaking with the Marine lieutenant. The awakening of your ghost fleet is an event of great significance, the Arcavian said. Many believed humans had abandoned their strength entirely. They will now reassess. Is that good or bad? The lieutenant asked. The Arcavian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, an expression indicating deep thought. It restores balance. The galaxy has grown too comfortable with humanity's passivity. Some species, like the Vorlax, have taken advantage. Others have forgotten what humans are capable of. The Arcavian looked around at the other freed captives. Today they remember. The SOS that summoned the galaxy's most feared war fleet. 1 week later, Laura stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance. The massive warship was now in orbit around a small blue-green moon where representatives from 12 species had gathered. The freed captives had been returned to their people, and now a historic meeting was about to take place. Laura watched as shuttles from various worlds arrived, bringing diplomats and leaders curious about the sudden reappearance of humanity's legendary fleet. Her crew had been given quarters aboard the Vengeance, treated with respect by the Ghost Fleet personnel. Quite a view, isn't it? Said a voice behind her. Laura turned to see Admiral Rogers approaching. The older woman moved with the same energy Laura had noticed during their first meeting. It's amazing, Laura agreed. I never expected my research mission to turn into this. Rogers smiled. Your grandfather would be proud. Nathan Bailey was a fine officer. You knew him? Laura asked, surprised. He served under me during the war. Helm's officer on the Defiant. He saved the ship during the Battle of Proxima. Brave man. Laura felt a swell of pride. Her grandfather had told her stories of the war, but he had never mentioned his own acts of bravery. Admiral, Laura said, I've been wondering, why did the fleet stay hidden all these years? Earth thought you were gone. Rogers looked out at the stars for a long moment before answering. After the war, humanity was tired of fighting. The treaties were signed, and peace seemed possible. But some of us, those who had seen the darkest parts of the conflict, couldn't fully believe it would last. We asked permission to maintain a small force just in case. Earth government agreed? Not officially, Rogers said. We became a secret, a contingency plan. Most of our people retired normally and returned to civilian life. Others, like me, chose to stay with the fleet. Over time, we recruited new members, Children of veterans, mostly. People who understood the importance of what we were doing. A young officer approached them. "Admiral, the Galactic Council representatives have arrived. They're gathering in the main conference room." Rogers nodded. "Time to face the music. They won't be happy about our existence." Laura followed the Admiral through the ship's corridors. Crew members stood at attention as they passed. Many were young, but their eyes held the same determination Laura had seen in veterans. The conference room was large, with a circular table at its center. Around it sat representatives from the major galactic powers. Laura recognized some from her studies: the four-armed Tellarites, the crystalline Zhang, the insectoid Vern. And at one end, sitting alone, was Sentinel Tyrell of the Arcavians, HFY. Rogers entered. The room fell silent. The Admiral took her seat at the table, with Laura standing behind her. "This emergency session of the Galactic Council is now in order," announced a Tellarite diplomat. "We are here to address the reappearance of the human military force known as the Ghost Fleet, in violation of the Treaty of Proxima." Rogers remained calm. "The fleet exists as a defensive measure only, as permitted under Section 7 of the treaty, which allows for reasonable security forces to protect human interests." "A hidden armada of warships hardly qualifies as reasonable," said the HFY Zhang representative, their crystalline body reflecting the room's lights. "Perhaps not," Rogers conceded, "but recent events have proven its necessity. The Vorlax attacked an unarmed research vessel and attempted to enslave its crew. They had also captured citizens of 12 other species, including an Arcavian diplomat." The mention of the Arcavian caused murmurs around the table. All eyes turned to Tyrell. The Arcavian stood, its slender form towering over the others. "The Arcavian Collective has observed this situation with interest," Tyrell said. "We find no fault with the humans' actions. They responded to a direct threat against their people. Their response was measured and precise. No lives were lost." "But the treaty," began the Zhang. "The treaty was meant to ensure peace," Tyrell interrupted. "Yet in humanity's absence from galactic security matters, new threats have emerged. The Vorlax are merely one example. There are others testing the boundaries, believing that humans have become weak." Laura watched as the diplomats exchanged uneasy glances. She realized that the galaxy had grown comfortable with humanity's passive role. The sudden reminder of their military capability had disturbed the established order. "What does the Arcavian Collective propose?" asked the Tellarite. "A modification to the existing treaties," Tyrell replied. "The human Ghost Fleet should be officially recognized and incorporated into galactic security protocols, not as conquerors but as peacekeepers." The suggestion caused an uproar around the table. Some species objected strongly, while others seemed to consider the idea. "Admiral." Rogers raised a hand, and surprisingly the room quieted. "The Ghost Fleet has remained hidden for 50 years, she said. "We did not seek this confrontation, but now that we have been revealed, we must determine our place in galactic society." She looked at each diplomat in turn. "Humanity chose peace after the war not because we were defeated, but because we believed in a better way forward. That has not changed, but peace requires strength to defend it. The Vorlax incident proves that." The Vern representative clicked, its mandibles thoughtfully. "What assurances do we have that this fleet will not be used aggressively?" "The same assurances you had 50 years ago when we signed the treaties," Rogers replied. "Our word. During the Galactic War, when we had the upper hand, did we push for unconditional surrender? No. We sought fair terms for all sides." Captain Greg Foster entered the room and handed Rogers a datapad. The Admiral read it quickly, then looked up. "I've just received word that Earth government has been informed of our existence and actions. They have sent a response." The room went silent again. Even Rogers seemed tense as she read the message. "Earth government acknowledges the Ghost Fleet and its recent actions in defense of human citizens. They propose a new treaty framework that would officially incorporate the fleet into Earth's defense structure, with oversight from civilian authorities." Laura felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had worried that Earth might reject the fleet, seeing it as a relic of a more violent past. Rogers continued reading. Earth further proposes joint security operations with interested galactic powers to address threats like the Vorlax. The Ghost Fleet would serve as one component of this cooperative effort, not as an independent force. The diplomats began discussing the proposal, some with enthusiasm, others with caution. The meeting would likely continue for hours, perhaps days, as the details were worked out. Laura felt a light touch on her arm. It was Tyrell. Your distress call has changed the course of galactic history, the Arcavian said quietly. Sometimes the universe requires balance to be restored. I just wanted to save my crew, Laura replied. The simplest actions often have the most profound consequences, Tyrell said. Your grandfather gave you the beacon because he understood this. As the diplomatic discussions continued around them, Laura thought about the chain of events her simple research mission had triggered. A small ship in danger, a desperate call for help, an ancient fleet emerging from hiding, and now, a new chapter in humanity's relationship with the galaxy. Outside the conference room windows, Earth ships were now arriving, official representatives, coming to meet the Ghost Fleet that many had thought was just a legend. Among them were newer military vessels, smaller than the massive warships of the old fleet but still capable. Earth had not been as defenseless as some had believed. They had simply chosen a different path, building smaller, less intimidating ships focusing on exploration and diplomacy. Now the old and new would need to find a way to work together. The Ghost Fleet, with its battle-scarred veterans and massive warships, and the modern Earth forces with their emphasis on cooperation and restraint. As the diplomatic meeting continued, Laura stepped away and returned to the observation deck. From there, she could see the fleet spread out in formation, their running lights bright against the darkness of space. Beyond them, the stars stretched to infinity, home to countless species and civilizations. Her grandfather's words came back to her. The beacon is only for the worst situation, when there is no other hope. She had used it, and help had come. But more than that, she had helped humanity remember an important truth. Peace was not the absence of strength, but its greatest expression. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again.